let's just, I want to play this clip too before we go, because people should be aware of this. And this is, and I want to make this clear, this report from NBC is about the use of solitary confinement by ICE for people who are, this sounds just, it's unbelievable, but it's basically for people who are mentally ill or disabled, or some instances because they're transgender or gay, or because they have reported abuse from guards or other detainees. They are put into solitary confinement. Remember that most psychiatrists will say solitary confinement is a form of torture. And for folks with mental illness, it's even worse. This is a practice, apparently, that has been going on with ICE for at least since 2012. These records document solitary confinement cases from 2012 to 2017. They were obtained under the Freedom of Information Act by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. They were shared with NBC and apparently other news organizations. So this predates Trump. In nearly 1/3 of the cases, 1/3 of the cases of people put in solitary confinement were determined by ICE itself to have a mental illness. Only half the cases of where people were put into solitary confinement, according to ICE's own documents, only half the cases involved punishment for rule violations. The other reasons were just because, I guess, theoretically to protect them or from themselves or other people. And which is not to say that there should be anybody going to solitary confinement. But even according to their own records, ICE only put only half the people they put in solitary confinement were done so because it was being punished. Here is a part of that report from NBC.
We have created and continue to support a system that involves widespread abuse of human beings.
Ellen Gallagher works in the Office of the Inspector General at the Department of Homeland Security. In 2014, she was with a different DHS office where she reviewed civil rights complaints and was troubled by what she saw in ICE's own files. Hundreds of immigrant detainees being put in solitary confinement every week. Most troubling for her, cases involving the mentally ill. A schizophrenic detainee sentenced to 390 days in solitary for throwing human waste at a guard. Another mentally ill detainee got 15 days because he had a green pepper in his sock.
The notes specifically said he had hidden the green pepper.
A green pepper.
Half a green pepper.
ICE's policy states that detainees should be segregated only after careful consideration of alternatives.
Solitary confinement was being used as the first resort, not the last resort. And sometimes it was the only approach.
In a statement to NBC News, a spokesperson says ICE is firmly committed to the safety and welfare of all those in its custody. The use of restrictive housing in ICE detention facilities is exceedingly rare, but at times necessary to ensure the safety of staff and individuals in a facility. Between 2014 and 2018, Gallagher sent memos detailing her concerns up the chain.
How would you characterize the overall response to the concerns you raised?
Muted.
Why are you speaking up now?
Because if I didn't speak up, I don't think I could live with myself.
An NBC News review of ICE data found more than 8,000 cases of immigrants held in solitary confinement in local, private, and federal facilities under both the Obama and Trump administrations. A third of them involved the mentally ill, including one put in isolation for nearly 2 years. At least 7 have committed suicide while in solitary. Dulce Rivera, an immigrant from Honduras, tried to hang herself while in solitary in New Mexico.
I mean, imagine if that report, everything, word for word, was done about, I don't know, China or any other country for that matter.
Russia.
We've invaded countries for way less than that.
I mean,
Used as a pretext.
just imagine that is just presented in, all the participants in there just were speaking a different language and we were just reading subtitles. It would, the outcry would be amazing. I mean, this is, when they talk about abolishing ICE, which apparently has not been, has sort of like, left the consciousness for the moment. This is why. This is a perfect example of an agency that is simply out of control and is so decrepit and corrupt at its core that it's incapable of being reformed. This is, I imagine, also a part of, the privatization, because the controls over who administer this stuff is just, much more, I guess, relaxed. I mean, it's really
Obscene. Absolutely obscene.
Man, we're doing a lot of bad news today.